This is going to be a unique video on this channel, but guys, I got it, and I was able to play the Killing Floor 3 beta. If you couldn't already tell, I'm a massive Killing Floor fan, so when I heard the third game in the series was announced, I was hyped and even signed up for the closed beta. And as you can see on screen, I got the Steam key and I was able to play the game a month early. So after playing it during the testing phase, I wanted to put all my thoughts into one large video rather than just a post on their forums or Discord. So if you're a newcomer to the series or a veteran player on the fence about this game, you might find what I have to say here pretty informative. And as a disclaimer, I'm in no way, shape, or form currently sponsored by Tripwire, so everything I say here is completely my opinion and mine alone. Since there's a lot to talk about, we're just going to get straight into it. I categorized my beta review into 3 sections: the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, we're going to start off with the good, which is what I enjoyed or absolutely loved about my first impressions with this game. Alright, so the good. Despite all the thematic changes, this definitely feels like Killing Floor and Tripwire didn't abandon the series. Yeah, the 2090s timeframe is kinda weird, but you can recognize the Zeds here, or mistake it for a Doom spin-off game. Though to be fair, the violence and music and over-the-top enemy designs have been a staple of the series since the first game. Many features and mechanics from the previous games actually evolved in KF3. Weapons and skills got a massive overhaul with the new attachments and skill tree systems. If you like COD weapon customizations in the Borderlands leveling system, you enjoy sinking time into experimenting with unique loadouts and skills that you can upgrade here. And there's a ton of attachments with ammo types, muzzles, underbarrels, magazines, receivers. There's just way too much to talk about with these 2 features alone. They'd have to be their own 2 separate videos when the game releases. And with the variations you can make with both systems, I would argue that if KF3 is at its best, it may have more replayability than the previous 2 games without mods. And to actually unlock these attachments, you need to do challenges, and to create them, you need crafting materials. You get these by killing Zeds, bosses, or destroying stuff on the map. And to be honest, I really don't have an opinion on this, since the weapon progression is pretty straightforward, and there was never a moment where I felt bottlenecked because some materials were just made impossibly rare, like it was in Destiny. Though final upgrades on attachments cost a lot more materials, including ones you get from bosses, which you can get on any difficulty, so you won't have to do a 0 damage on Earthrun to just get your fully upgraded laser sight. And there's an operational budget at the start of every mission, where you can sort of pick your loadout at the beginning of the first wave. At first, it kind of sounds like the current COD Zombies route, where you can spawn in with whatever you want, but you can only partly do this if it fits within your budget. So for example, at level 0, you start out broke. But as you level up your character, your budget increases and you can bring new weapons, items, or upgrade your armor straight off the bat. It's another layer of strategy, which really does matter in the harder difficulties, which I actually like. Hazards now are an actual mechanic for all the maps. There's turrets, armor crates, explosive barrels, zip lines, locked doors, giant fans, grind up Zeds. They really fleshed out this once obscure feature. And to balance it all out, they now have a new item called the multi-tool to interact with these hazards. So you have to make important decisions on the fly when you want to use it because it has limited usage. And now you can buy ammo during the wave, which, hot take, I 100% support. There's been a lot of times in KF2 where I'm just fucked because I ran out of ammo during the wave, and because the difficulty is so high, it stops ammo boxes from spawning so often, so I just gotta fight with my knife and I just die. Oh my god, what the fuck? Let's be real, it's not just a skill issue, it's more of a game issue. I can see where some people are coming from with these complaints, but this is a nice quality of life feature since you'll be missing your shots more often in this game with all the fighting happening on screen. Another hot take, I think the removal of the waste system is fine. Let's be real, how often in KF1 and 2 were you rocking maybe 3-4 different primaries as secondaries? If you were just messing around with the cross-perk weapons, okay, fair. But you could still do that here. I could tell it would have been a pain in the ass balancing the waste system with all the different attachments, since it can radically change the stats of a weapon. And also having to add weight bonuses to the skill tree option when it could have been something more impactful, you can kinda see where I'm coming from here. I think this was a good call considering all the balancing choices they made for this game. And the new items. I like them besides their models. Some of these are straightforward. The medic bag gives you a stim, ammo bag gives an ammo grenade, the door trap makes doors explode, and I especially like the new ones like the lure. And these Zeds that come into contact become confused and start attacking each other. And this is similar with the electric trap, which shocks Zeds in place for you to do whatever you want with them. I like this because you can use these items in really interesting ways. And yes, during the boss wave prep you can set up the Killing Floor equivalent of a Rube Goldberg machine with all the traps and multi-tool hazards and basically any item that is still in stock. The meat system was upgraded, and it definitely shows with the detail they put into the Zeds. The damage you inflict on them look even more real this time around, with some of them even being reduced to bone, or clots are trying to crawl towards you in a desperate attempt to finish the job. Say what you want about the new Zed designs, you can't lie to me and tell me that the violence here is worse than what's in KF2's. They even added executions that I thought were going to be handled poorly, but it's actually rewarding to an extent. From what I saw in the beta, there's 3 of them that you can do. There's one if a clock grabs you and there's a little quick time event.
They're a quarter down. Good work.
Got sight.
And there's two other for the flesh pounding Skrakes if they're low on health. The latter explode on death and can annihilate the horde surrounding you during the animation.
The smaller fighter was larger in spirit and determination.
Now when I say that these are the ones that you can do, I really mean that the Zeds themselves can do ones to you as well. So instead of dying, you're kind of down like in Left 4 Dead, and if you're not saved in time, a random Zed or boss will just walk up to you and kill you in a really violent finisher.
I'm having trouble standing. Someone bring me a Zimmer frame.
I love this detail because it just shows just how brutal the Zeds are, just like they were back in the previous games. What I find a little tedious though is that the executions aren't really guaranteed to happen, and you kind of get a large Zed weak enough, but they're too far away to finish them off, and then they recover with health again. It's kind of meh. If they can fix it to be less irritating, then it'd be a fire mechanic in the maps. They were surprisingly well designed actually. I was hesitant about them, but after playing a while, I kind of actually grew to like them. One thing that would make these maps a lot more fun, in my opinion, would be the day and nighttime variations. Like imagine city streets if it took place in the middle of the night. While there are only 3 maps in the beta, content creators who got to play even earlier, beforehand, I believe got to play on 2 other maps that aren't here. And on the level select map, there's actually landmarks implying there's at least 7 maps that'll take place in the US at launch. So I can only imagine if there are any more in other continents, as they've already went ahead and made every other character from different parts of the world. Maybe there's a map for each one of them where they originate from. Alright, now let's talk about the Zeds. They've all evolved and their abilities are a lot more deadly than before. Some Zeds are gone for now, but I prefer the more solid enemies that actually have a role in gameplay, sort of like chess pieces as one of the devs put it. I think I speak for almost everyone when I say the EDRs and quarter pounds were pretty annoying and even outside their welcome in KF2. So every returning Zed here has a new ability. The Siren adapted a range attack, likely inspired by its KF2 versus counterpart. Skrakes have a grapple hook that can reel you in if you try to run. Flesh Pounds can extend their arms to attack you from farther range. Bloats kind of just bloat into giant meat shields and can do insane damage if you don't deal with them. Crawlers are actually more agile and can actually stick to walls and ceilings. And Husks act like artillery to shred your armor and act more intelligent with shifting their attack patterns from range and up close. And in some ways they sprinkled in mutations here and there, like in Endless mode in KF2. There's 3 bosses here, and while I do have my complaints, I still like them because of the challenge they pose. The Impaler is the idea, what if we pissed off a gorilla and then just gave it a giant knife and rocket launchers, which is shown in great detail as it runs you down to stab you in the ass.
Shock trap.
Queen Crawler is a giant version of the normal one that can spawn tiny ones and is deceptively agile. Think of the GoNarch from Half-Life 1. The amount of times I'm trying to run away from this thing, get up a ledge to see where it is, only to turn around and see it jumping at me like Foxy is insane. I hate insects, and the new Crawler really invokes that phobia, which I really like. And also has the best boss music out of the 3, which you can hear it in the background right now. And the third boss called the Chimera, which looks and acts a lot like the Halo 3 Flood Tank form if it had crab armor, but that's beside the point. If you thought the Abomination was absurdly tanky, he has nothing on this thing. I don't even know what you could call these attacks, but they're really fun to dodge. They feel like raid bosses where they have attacks that can fuck up the entire team. And the thing that's awesome about them is that they have different phases where they evolve as the fight progresses. Like they're becoming more desperate to throw things at you, or mid-fight they get a new ability that they didn't recognize they had. I am sad that there's no boss that's as intelligent as the Patriarch or Hans from what we've seen, but it would be cool to see them come back again, or someone new who talks throughout the fight and gets you so worked up that you lock in because you want to kill them so badly.
Tried to nick my brigade after I'm gone and I'll hold you. Champagne for everyone!
I had high expectations for the music, and Christ did they deliver. The music in the beta is a mix of the KF2 and 3 tracks, and holy shit, it fits perfectly. There was not a single track here that I got tired of listening to. It sounds like they updated the KF2 music to fit with this game, and when the Zeds start pouring in and the music begins, it's like crack to my eardrums. What caught me off guard is how the music transitions smoothly when Z time kicks in.
That's the way.
Top notch that.
The devs announced that new characters and weapons are going to be free. This is unlike KF2 where some weapons were in the DLC pack and barely any new characters got added. None of that's going to happen here, hopefully. This will be a great change if they manage to keep their promise. The price of the DLC weapons for KF2 were insane for their quality and the obvious pay-to-win features. Whatever they tried doing in KF2 with the loot box garbage and the Counter-Strike type of market, that should just stay in KF2. Don't bring it back ever again, please. And besides that, they also did confirm mod support, so don't fret thinking that this is going to be a Back 4 Blood reboot. And this is great to hear because Killing Floor benefits so much from the community content. I hope they also expand the modding capabilities because the workshop for this game could look like a gold mine with all the new features, the details that could be put into everything. Now with all the glazing aside, there's a lot of bad in this beta which worries me. I categorize the bad not necessarily as the worst of the worst that they had to offer, but likely some things that could be fixed before release or sometime post-launch, so let's just get right into it. Alright, the bad. The graphics leave a lot to be desired. I'm not going to be too harsh here because this could be a result that they haven't really done much for the graphics yet, and if I remember correctly, the devs did say somewhere that when the game recognizes your performance is dropping, it'll try to help you by lowering some settings like the animations or objects that you won't probably notice. But the visual effects also get in the way so often, and sometimes it feels downright impossible to see what's even happening. And if you haven't noticed in the footage, it's probably really hard to see what's going on since the YouTube quality dips when too much is happening on screen. The safest thing to do here if you really care about graphics is to wait until release to see how they really look, but right now it does need improvement. The sound design is pretty hit or miss. Some sound effects they did a really impressive job with, like the Square's mask being shot off or the siren's new entrance, it just tickles my brain. But the weapon sounds are just so generic, it just lacks the oomph and punch that the KF2 weapons had.
It's like an abattoir in here.
And some of these sounds also take me out of the experience. Like, take the stem for example. You might think, it probably sounds like the KF2 syringe since that was also sci-fi inspired. Let me play it for you real quick, and slowly I'll show you what I think it sounds like. And these weapon and item designs are just so forgettable. From the dev's own words, the game is supposed to take place in the near future with weapons that could exist in the 2090s. So let me tell you right now as a gun nut, I don't think the MP5, SCAR, M32, or the Origin 12 are going to have all these tubes or whatever the fuck this is supposed to be 60 years from now. Also, some of the weapons are supposed to be based on real life ones, but I can only maybe point out a handful and the rest are just going to forever be a mystery. And some of these guns just have nearly the same color palette, like almost all of Foster's weapons have black and washed out blue. Like, where's the variety? I can barely remember the names of the new fictional weapons. You could at least make it easy by making them distinct in their default design and colors. The other half of the weapons aren't real, which, okay, fine. Half of the arsenal out of all the games aren't even real to begin with. But these look like the designer trying to make a Halo or a Fallout weapon from just memory. I think they would have absolutely killed it with the ninja weapons if they continued the do-it-yourself theme where someone engineered them in their shed, L96 style. And instead you got the tactical sci-fi katana with the laser rifle from Fallout. Like, really? You sort of have that do-it-yourself theme with the firebug weapons, but that's 4 out of like a dozen weapons that they could have done this with. Some of the item models are okay, but others, wow. Like, take the ammo bag for example. We have all these neatly organized ammo boxes lying around the hub area, but someone decided to bring the pot of greed to hold your 5.56. All of these things together is just 1 step forward, 2 steps back. They obviously put a lot of effort into the new weapon stats and abilities, but then they removed what made the last 2 games and their arsenals unique. Like the Nightfall spent all the budget pimping out their top secret hideout and then slashed the funding for their armory. Like 4 weapons per character, really? I know it might sound like a nitpick, but these design choices they made for KF2, it gave those perks identity. And the animations. they're just a visual downgrade compared to KF2. Now straight away, before I say anything else, I'm certain this isn't what they're supposed to look like, since it seems like some keyframes in these animations are missing, or they're probably meant to be placeholders. I can't critique it that much because obviously it's incomplete, and it's a beta after all. But man, comparing the work they did in KF2 versus KF3 in the animation department, it's just impossible to ignore. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember reading how they did the KF2 animations with mocap and at a higher FPS, so they do look smooth in Z-time. I don't know the process they did for these animations to KF3, but the more exaggerated vibe they tried going for here, I'm just not liking. While Killing Floor hasn't always been realistic, I think they could have benefited more from just a more grounded approach with the animations. And the characters are just generic or corny. And no, I'm not going to say it's because of DEI or whatever the fuck gamers are grifting about nowadays. I could care less about that. Just make them interesting as a character and in design. And despite putting a lot of time into playing this, off the top of my head I can only remember Foster, Devlin, and Luna. Everyone else is just there. Imran looks like he agreed to do a promo for Advanced Warfare. Nakata is like your tactical airsoft teammate who thinks he's Bruce Lee. And Obi's hooked up to some oxygen tank, going headfirst into combat. I think their voice lines are bugged or just straight up missing. Because when I play Foster, he's very chatty, which honestly is in character for him because he's meant to be an asshole and know-it-all who's a potty mouth. But Jesus, Foster, you gotta take it down a notch, because it sounds like VisiPop with your dialogue.
Honey, fucking home. Go on, fuck off. Fuck off. Fucking ball ache. Fucking Burke. Fucking nuns. Fucking thank fuck. That's okay. Fucking fuck off. I will turn your insides to the fucking mons.
But when I play as other people, they just barely talk, like Luna. I can't tell you much about her because she barely has any lines outside of combat. Imran could be the coolest guy in the entire roster, but I wouldn't know that because the only lines they have for him are his MCU clips, which get annoying after a while. And speaking of MCU clips, Rhodes talks almost exclusively in them. Half of her lines are just bad. We don't know much about the story yet, but from what I have to guess, she's the one that's giving comms to the Nightfall team maybe? But whatever her role is, she's way too happy and upbeat with fighting man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. It's a huge contradiction with the theme they're trying to go for here, with a scary body horror and a dystopian future where we don't want to find out what happens if these Zeds catch us. Then we'll have Rhodes say something corny as Foster's getting eaten alive on screen. I understand that humor was always a part of Killing Floor despite its themes, but this type of humor is just lame, okay? Luckily you can just go into the settings and adjust the dialogue volume, so you can just mute this if you want everyone to be the strong silent type as they get ripped apart. And Z-time feels like it's just too forgiving. It's no longer a random RNG chance that gets more likely to happen over time. It's something you build up hitting weak points or getting kills. It's also now visualized on the HUD, which I dislike. I think it just should have stayed a mechanic that kicked in when the player entered a high point in gameplay. I think they instead could go back with the Z-time system in KF2, but expand on it a little more. Maybe there could be a skill where getting a kill or a headshot can have a bonus % chance to activate Z-time. Or maybe certain actions now can contribute to Z-time. It's just telegraphed way too easily now, and I just found myself relying on it more often than not in higher difficulties, after getting used to playing the game. And this is similar to the ultimates they have now. So here's a nuclear take. I really don't mind these in the game. If it fits with the perk's identity, then okay, sure, why not? The grapple hook is something I thought Berserker would have benefited from in KF2, and now it's actually here. The Z-time skills in KF2 were basically the precursors to this. What I mainly have a problem with is just how easy it makes the game now, like the new Z-time. In the past games, you just had to figure it out with the tools that you had at hand. But in this game, you just press the ultimate button and it just kills everything on screen for you. The medic and firebug ultimates are basically the same and have the same initial ability where it kills everyone in a radius around you. And it's already overlapping and there's only 6 characters in the beta. They could be balanced in a way where the player has to earn it, like how we have to earn Z-time right now. Just swap the activations for these mechanics. Or have the ability itself require you to do something first. Weigh the risk rewards like the ninja's grapple hook if you're going to bring yourself into the horde and then fight whoever's going to survive from your one punch. About the Zeds, they kind of just walk towards you when you're not playing Hell on Earth. You're far away, they'll go into a sprint to catch up to you, but then once you're in range of them, I guess, they kind of just go to shambling speed. Unless they're a larger Zed or they're enraged. Like, are they tired? Did they give up? Like, in no way in the future the claws are getting winded from crossing the street. Like, if they need Obi's oxygen tank, like, what is it? I know this might be a nitpick, but I also miss the Guma stomp mechanic they had from KF2. You can stop on the Zeds from a height and it'll stun them, mostly for the crawlers. And in this game, it could surely benefit from it with the zip lines and verticality on these new maps. Especially for the crawler queen spawns, or whatever they're called. Instead of having to pick them off one by one with your gun, you can just crush them like an actual bug. On the topic of movement mechanics, this is another hit or miss for me. I do like that they flesh out the movement, but there's a lot of things that contradict the fast-paced style they're going for. In KF3 you can walk, sprint, or dash, sort of like in Doom. You're meant to be aware of everything around you so you can bob and weave between the attacks, and it's supposed to feel rewarding. But if you try and run and gun while going backwards, your character walks like they're just put in leg cuffs, so they're getting hit by everything. This one small detail just annoys me to no end. KF2 had no problem with letting you sprint in any direction you wanted. While there's more movement options in this game, it just feels more clunky to me. I also forgot to mention there's a slide, which I didn't remember was a thing until midway into writing the script. It's only useful if you're going down a slope and then you get a lot of distance away from enemies. I think they tried way too hard trying to reinvent the wheel with this advanced mobility option. Instead, it could have been more like this. Let you walk at a faster pace, but include a sprint option that slightly increases your speed. The slide could stay, but it could be a little more responsive, and the dash, I really don't know if it really fits in this game. Maybe a limited item like the thruster in Halo Infinite could work. It does feel good to dash away from attacks that would have hit me, but then you realize this could have been achieved if they just made the normal movement speed faster and then tweaked the dodge window a little more. At its best, it feels rewarding, but at its worst, the attacks from the large Zeds and bosses are more unavoidable than in KF2. I found that cycling between corners and ledges to outmaneuver Zeds does help you more, but it just feels like training zombies in COD, which is just a drag when you're doing it in Killing Floor. And one of the biggest travesties for me has to be the objective mode missing. I believe the missions tab here is supposed to be the objective mode. The premise here is that you go into all these new maps to advance the narrative, which I wouldn't mind, if the entire objective wasn't just go to a location, retrieve something, win. Like, huh? Tripwire? You're telling me the best campaign type of mode for the main Killing Floor games was back in 2009? 16 years ago? I really hope that this isn't a replacement for objective mode, and this is just another secondary feature. Otherwise, this is going to be another huge missed opportunity. At least have it as a mode on the official maps with the voice acting and everything. Hell, it could have been a mix of the objectives in KF1 and the level design of KF Incursion, if you remember that game. Now we get to the worst part of the beta. The ugly. Things that probably won't ever get changed, either because the developers are determined to keep it in the game, or it's practically hard-coded into it. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. The specialist. It just fucking sucks, okay? If you want to be a Chimera now, you gotta play as Foster. You want to be a Firebug? You gotta be Devlin. Looking to be a gunslinger? You better hope they figure out that character with the unique dually weapons that won't annoy you. Okay, look. A part of me says I really shouldn't care, because we're playing in first person all the time anyways, so it's not like we're going to be seeing the character or the cosmetics we buy, which will likely cost $20 a piece. But then the other more sensible part of me is saying they just repackaged the characters and perks into one, and the result is 4 weapons per character, a bunch of palette swap cosmetics, even more microtransactions, and barely any new features that benefit the player. You have to be gaslit into thinking that this was a great change. Instead, it just feels like someone at Tripwire was a huge Overwatch fan, so they want to model KF3 off of it, but everyone in the office didn't have the heart to tell them no. Or the devs wanted to make a new sci-fi hero shooter game, completely away from Killing Floor, but then they were told it has to be KF3 anyways, so they compromised. Like, there's so much potential in the new systems they created here. They could have made the current skill tree options like you become a subclass, like Sharpshooter becomes a gunslinger. But it's likely they'll never do that, and then they'll just make another character as Gunslinger with barely any new weapons that they'll probably just drip feed us every couple months when they could have just been in the starting cast at launch. In the Battle Pass format. I'm highly skeptical about this because it's handled like Halo Infinite where you can progress at any time, even if you play the game later. But at the same time, can you trust a word that the quality of the future content is not going to be complete ass when the year goes by? Like, do you remember KF2's content quality? I understand that the game has to be profitable for continued updates, but it just annoys me how every live service game nowadays is just doing this battle pass format, and I just refuse to indulge in it if the cosmetics here look like they hired the guy to make the Seeker helmet from Halo 5 to design them, with generic cookie cutter weapon skins sprinkled in. From what I've seen, this feature doesn't seem to affect gameplay whatsoever, so I guess if you want a single positive takeaway from this, well, there you go. Why I feel it could be ugly is that there's potential for this to be a slap in the face towards the community who supported Tripwire, despite KF2's pay-to-win content and lackluster cosmetics, with once again, pay-to-win content and lackluster cosmetics right from the start. Who's to say that in the future they could change their minds because the game's not making enough money? Let's make new weapons and characters exclusive to an event. Then we'll have an excuse to do the FOMO bullshit, saying that it's a seasonal event and not really a battle pass. Now the setting for the game. The futuristic theme they're going for, I don't think it fits with Killing Floor, nor do I like it. If they set the game in the present with the updated visuals and the KF2 animations, the old heads in the community would have reacted like that guy seeing the new Star Wars trailer. Advanced Warfare, Halo, Fallout, Cyberpunk, Doom, all these games don't really scream inspiration for what Killing Floor could be. The near futuristic stuff they did in KF2, I think that's the most serious to go with, and then just leave it at that. There's a classic Foster skin in the beta store, which implies that you have to buy this at launch. Foster's default look in the previous game just looks so much better than his new one. You're smoking dick if you think anyone's going to pay $20-30 for Foster's classic outfit when it could have just been free at the start. It's just so disappointing to see this is how they're going to handle nostalgia content. I think people can ignore this with the community content that'll likely be ported over with the older maps in the present. Maybe this could be like a Black Ops 3 situation where you can port over other maps and you don't really care about the futuristic guns or anything because the gameplay is just fun. And finally, the UI design. Man. It's a perfect allegory for where the game industry is basically heading. Take a look at KF1 and 2's UI, and then this. To me, it just looks like a downgrade, compared to the older ones which were even more limited than KF3's. At a glance, you would never know this was supposed to be KF3, Apex Legends maybe, if you never knew what Killing Floor was. For some reason, a lot of newer games nowadays, like this new UI theme where they sterilize what gave a character, and then produce something that you could probably make in Roblox in a couple hours. It's like the game dev equivalent of corporate Memphis. I'll at least give the devs props for not turning the menus into the Hulu UI like COD and Fortnite are adamant on doing, but Jesus Christ, this style has to be fixed as soon as possible. If they could change KF2's beta UI, they could definitely do it here. And to clarify, I don't want Killing Floor to fail because it's one of my top favorite game series of all time. It's also Tripwire's golden goose, so if Killing Floor fails, then they fail. I want to see it succeed and become the best it could be, which is why I'm pointing out all of these things. The last thing I want Killing Floor to become is another victim of modern gaming. I don't believe a lot of these problems can be fixed at launch, but at least they can see the overwhelming feedback on features for this game and then learn from it. It's definitely possible to make it right, and it might not be something they could change tomorrow, but something that could definitely happen sometime in the future. Now with all that in mind, and at the end of the day, I'll likely be buying KF3 when it releases. I feel the game is definitely going to have a mixed review on Steam when it releases, but I believe with the features currently in the beta and things we haven't seen yet and potential for future content, I wouldn't mind giving it a try, at least for a time. If you can't stand any of the bad or ugly that I pointed out, then by all means wait and see if the game is worth your money, and then buy it on sale. Anyways, despite all that, I want to thank Tripwire for giving me the opportunity to play this game really. Maybe I'll upload more on Killing Floor if you like this style of content. If you enjoyed this review, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you agree or disagree with my takes on KF3, then let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion about it. If there was something I missed or got wrong, let me know too. There was a lot in the beta and the devs might have already cleared some things up before this video even got uploaded. For me right now, I'm gonna go back to playing KF2, so I'll see you guys in the next one.